humbled actually to be among artists. People who journey into the divine, into the margins intentionally. They do it often with less than support, support to sustain their journey, their own journeys, let alone their family. I know that journey well. I always wonder if the Christian church can be a place of patronage and support, as we need to be thinking about theologically, right? That this is not just a auction to raise money so we can have more artists come. It is a theological act, Christian stewardship, right? Support. What is that about, and how do we understand it theologically? So I will. If you follow me on Twitter and Facebook, you're getting a lot of this ranting. So I will stop from doing ranting and just pause for a minute and in gratitude praise our Creator. Yes, chaos, but chaos and darkness is the starting point, and therefore that is the very place of creation. Now, what I just said is pretty transgressive, because most of us as Christians avoid darkness. We run away from suffering. We do not want to deal with chaos. Even though our physicist tells us that chaos theory and all of that is part of creation, the narrative of this mechanism, even if you are not a believer in God, that you have to recognize that there is a certain way that the world is functioning, if not created, at least functioning, that if you were to look only within the materialist world, within the closed system, you begin to see there is something deeper going on, even in chaos, even in darkness. Now, artists are instinctively and intuitively connected to this. So we tend to deal with full facets of the human experience, which means we make people uncomfortable. Okay, I get that. But what about theologically, if you think about what God did in creation, what Jesus did in his own journey of suffering? So what the Spirit did to open up, right, the world in which all voices are heard, refracted in this beautiful cacophony called Pentecost. What about this God that created not out of any need? God is all sufficient, right? So God is not creating as we create, which is basically we have been wired this way, and there's a certain need for us to create, despite the fact that there's no support. It doesn't matter. And if he support, we would do more with $100 than anybody else. Case in example, these prints were made because his canvas came late, so he started making these with available material. It's extraordinary what an artist can do with no support, no budget, no material, and he's not even, in his home country. How can he do that? Well, it flows out of God's character. God, even though God is not limited like us with materiality and all of that, God created gratuitously. God created into the margins. God created beyond the needs that we think of. And we want to, sometimes I feel like theology is all about God needing us. We argue for our own existential reality rather than who God is. God in creation did not need us. all the creation. Why did God create? God created because God is love. And love has to create. Love has to push us toward the margins because that's how love works. You know, you don't go out on a date and you share your bottom line accounting. You take the girl or you go out with your lover to a museum to hear and experience an opera or hear a concert or simply walk in nature. This gratuitous, wasteful act of love. Right? And that's how God works. God is not like a machinery through which we created a mechanism and a purposeful creation, which it is. Creation is purposeful because it's from God's heart. But that is not the ontology of creativity or love. So when we purchase art, I'm looking at that print and I want that, $80, there's only 4 of them, so you're going to have to fight me for it. When we look at creation, when we look at behold our God, we have to be filled with this wonderment, right? This reality of grace that we fall into. And God, even though He does not need any of this or any of us to fulfill God's heart, God spared nothing. Right? It's the most extravagant gift that you and I can ever receive. And God, by through sending His Son to die for us, literally gave up His entire self. That gratuity, that we are filled with gratitude because this God does not stop at rendering something that is necessary, something that functions well. God goes all the way because of love. And when we think about that, who in our communities, in our world, that happens to intuit all of that excess and gratuity and wonderment and delight? It's the artists. And we have in our society pushed them into the margins, branded arts to be this extravagant thing that only people with money can do. Nonsense. We all make choices in life. We are all patrons of some kind. We buy clothes. We pick up music on iTunes. We go to Netflix and binge watch whatever we binge watch. We are all patrons. We make decisions every day on aesthetics. So the question is, are the decisions we're making today connected with this gratuitous reality of God's creation and God's love? That's the question. Tonight, you have an opportunity to connect those dots directly by speaking to artists, to really listen to them talk about the creativity. It is the glimpse into the heart of God. It is a theological journey that you can take with them. And not only that, you can buy their work. Now, you might say, well, I don't have $200 or $300. Well, I say again, nonsense. We spent, if you take your family out on a movie today, it's gonna be at least $60, $70, right? If you buy your popcorn, if you buy your whatever, $100. The evening is spent, yes, it's worth it to do that, but you can buy this print for $80. It's gonna permanently be in your home. It's going to pay itself over and over. So don't say that, you don't have $200, please, because great artists is never poor. We do not, make things from a limited resource scarcity model. we already know God who has touched us, and all we can do is to respond in gratitude. And for artists who do that, they are opening up this whole theological terrain that we need as Christians to tap into. Imagine having that your everyday experience by looking at the art in your home and then pondering and meditating on God's gratuitous gesture of love for you and for me, for our families, for the guests who come into our homes. Isn't that what the church ought to be doing? So I am so grateful to be here, to be part of this evening, but also to help my friend lead this center. This is so extraordinarily important to me that this is, and the reason is not just because I'm an artist and I love art and I'm Don's friend, because I think of this as my central act of worship, to learn to understand my God, who created me to be creative, who loved me beyond my brokenness, who would even work through the fissures of my life, my brokenness, my ground zero experiences, to shed light onto the world. And I get to do this as an artist, as a thinker, as a writer. And I do it because I am in awe of this Creator. So thank you.